The courtroom smelled of polished oak and stale coffee, the kind that lingers in styrofoam cups left too long on counsel tables. I sat on the defendant's side. Though it didn't feel like defense, it felt like waiting for the last move in a game I'd already won. Across the aisle, my wife, Elena, kept her shoulders squared, chin lifted just enough to suggest composure. Her lawyer, Mr. Caldwell, adjusted his cufflinks and leaned toward her, murmuring something that made her lips twitch in a half-smile. He liked to win early, before the gavel even fell. The judge, Honorable Margaret Liu, scanned the docket with the patience of someone who'd seen every flavor of lie. Her glasses caught the fluorescent light as she spoke. Counsel, we're here on the matter of the marital residence at 1427 Sycamore Lane. The petitioner claimed sole ownership via trust transfer executed last March. Respondent disputes the validity. Mr. Caldwell, your motion alleges the original purchase agreement is lost or destroyed. Is that still your position? Caldwell rose, smoothing his tie the way a card shark fans a winning hand. Yes, Your Honor. Despite diligent search, the document cannot be located. My client acted in good faith under advice of counsel. The trust is irrevocable. He let the last words settle like dust on a shelf no one bothers to clean. Judge Liu turned to me. Mr. Harlan, your response? I stood slowly, the chair legs scraping once against the floor. The room felt smaller than it had an hour ago, the air thicker. I placed my right hand on the table, palm down, steady. I have the agreement, Your Honor. My voice didn't shake. It hadn't in months. I reached into the slim leather folder beside me. Not the thick binder Caldwell expected. Just one folder, matte black, no labels. I slid a single sheet across the mahogany toward the clerk. The paper made a soft hiss, like a secret finally allowed to breathe. See, Caldwell's head snapped up. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came. Elena's fingers tightened around the edge of her legal pad. The knuckles went white, then pink as she forced them to relax. The bailiff took the document, passed it to the judge. Lou's eyes flicked down the page, then up to Caldwell, then to me. She didn't smile, but something shifted behind her gaze. Curiosity, maybe, or recognition. Mr. Caldwell, she said, voice level, approach. He walked a few steps like a man balancing on a wire. The paper trembled slightly in his hand when he took it. I watched his pupil's contract as he read the header. Purchase and sale agreement, 1427, Sycamore Lane, dated 12 years earlier. My signature in blue ink, Elena's in black, both witnessed by a notary whose stamp still gleamed crisp and raised. Caldwell's throat worked. He looked at Elena. She looked at the document. Neither looked at me. I remained standing, hands now clasped behind my back. The silence stretched long enough for the wall clock to tick 4 times. Caldwell finally found his voice, but it came out thinner. Your Honor, this appears to be a copy. We'll need to authenticate. It's the original, I said, not loud, just clear, notarized, seal intact, chain of custody documented. You'll find my affidavit on page 2. Judge Liu lifted a second sheet from the folder I'd handed up. My affidavit, time-stamped, signed, witnessed by the same retired clerk who watched me initial every page 6 months ago. Caldwell's face drained of color the way water leaves a glass tip too fast. Elena's eyes darted to the exit, then back to the table, then to me. For the first time in a year, she met my gaze. I didn't blink. The judge set the papers down with deliberate care. We'll recess for 15 minutes. Counsel, my chambers. Mr. Harlan, remain available. She rose. The bailiff called the break. Chairs scraped. Whispers rose like steam. Caldwell tried to speak to Elena, but she was already gathering her purse, movements sharp, mechanical. He reached for the document again, as if touching it might make it vanish. It didn't. I sat back down, folded my hands, and waited. The smile I allowed myself was small, private, the kind you give a memory you've kept polished for exactly this moment. The first sign was a quiet. Elena used to fill evenings with small talk about her day at the clinic. Patients who forgot dentures. The new hygienist who hummed off-key. Then one Tuesday in late January, she came home, dropped her keys in the bowl by the door, and said nothing. I was at the kitchen island, reviewing blueprints for a strip mall remodel, the kind of job that paid the mortgage and left enough for her Roth IRA. She poured a glass of water, stood at the sink, and stared out at the backyard where the swing set still hung from the oak we planted the year we closed on the house. I waited for the usual recap. It never came. She drank half the water, set the glass down, and went upstairs. The stairs creaked in the same 3 places they always did, but the rhythm felt different, measured, like she was counting steps to somewhere else. 2 weeks later, I noticed a file drawer in the study stuck. It had never stuck before. The runners were oiled every spring. I tugged harder. Inside, the manila folder labeled Property Docs was thinner than memory. The warranty deed was there, the survey, the title insurance, but the original purchase agreement, the one with both our signatures in different inks, was gone. I checked the scanner history. Nothing. I checked the cloud drive we shared. Empty. I told myself she'd taken to the bank, maybe for a refinance packet. I left a post-it on her monitor. Need the ORID purchase AGR. T-checks. She never mentioned it. March brought the whispered calls. I'd come in from the garage, grease still under my nails from swapping the truck's serpentine belt, and hear her voice drop to a murmur in the laundry room. "Yes, that's correct," she'd say, then the soft click of the door. I'd stand in the hallway holding a socket wrench, listening to the dryer thump like a heartbeat. One night, I asked who was on the phone. "Caldwell," she said, folding a fitted sheet with hospital corners. "He's handling the trust paperwork." I nodded. Trusts were smart. We'd talked about them years ago when my dad's estate got messy. I asked if she needed me to sign anything. She said, "Not yet," and smoothed the sheet into the linen closet. The real fracture came on a Thursday in April. I was at the site office, a trailer parked beside a half-frame dental suite, when the bank called. "Mr. Harlan, we're showing an inquiry on the Sycamore Lane mortgage. A trust in the name of Elena M. Harlan sole beneficiary." I laughed, told the rep it must be a glitch, hung up, and dialed Elena. Voicemail. I drove home early. The house smelled of lemon polish. She cleaned, which she only did when anxious. I found her in the study, back to the door, sliding a thick envelope into her purse. "What's the trust about?" I asked. She turned, startled, then calm. "Asset protection," she said. "Caldwell recommended it. You're still on the deed." I asked to see the documents. She said they were at his office, that he'd bring copies next week. I asked why the bank flagged it. She said banks overreact. Her voice stayed level, but her left hand kept smoothing the strap of her purse, over and over, like a worry bead. That night, I couldn't sleep. I went to the study at 2:17 a.m., opened the drawer again. The folder was back, fatter now. Inside, a trust instrument, 32 pages, executed March 14th, notarized by a stamp I didn't recognize. My signature was there, except it wasn't. The loop on the Y in Harlan was too round, the pressure too even. I held it to the desk lamp. The ink didn't feather the way mine does on cheap copier paper. I took photos with my phone, every page, timestamps glowing 2/23, 2/24. Then I found the transfer deed tucked behind the trust. 1427, Sycamore Lane. Quick claim to the Elena M. Harlan Revocable Trust, recorded at the county clerk April 2nd. Consideration, love, and affection. My name nowhere. I sat in the dark until the birds started. The house I'd framed myself, every stud measured twice, every nail set flush, was no longer mine. The swing set creaked in the breeze outside. I thought of the down payment I'd scraped from overtime, the refinances I'd signed to fund her nursing degree, the Saturdays I'd spent patching drywall, so she could host book club, all of it notarized into air. Elena's breathing drifted down the hallway, soft, untroubled. I closed the drawer without a sound, went to the garage, and started a new notebook. Page 1, March 14th, trust executed. Page 2, April 2nd, deed recorded. I wrote in pencil, small, neat. The graphite felt colder than the forged ink upstairs. I slept in the guest room that night, the one with the slanted ceiling and the faint smell of cedar from the hope chest Elena never opened. The mattress sagged in the middle, but the sag felt honest. I left the door cracked so I could hear her if she came looking. She didn't. At 6:03 a.m. her alarm chirped once, then silenced. Footsteps, shower, the click of the hairdryer, the front door. I waited another 20 minutes, then went downstairs. Her coffee mug sat rinsed in the sink, lipstick on the rim like a bruise. I poured my own black and opened a notebook I'd started in the garage. Page 3, April 3rd. He leaves house 7:11 a.m., returns 6:47 p.m. No eye contact. I underlined the last sentence twice. The first week I kept my routine. Up at 5, gym bag in the truck, site by 6:30. I framed walls, hung drywall, ran conduit, tasks that required both hands and no conversation. The crew noticed I wasn't joking around anymore. "You good, boss?" asked Miguel, the lead framer. I nodded, drove a nail flush with one swing. At lunch, I sat in the cab with the windows up, engine off, and read the county clerk's website on my phone. Quitclaim deeds, revocable trust, forgery statutes. I bookmarked everything. When Elena texted, "Running late, order pizza," I replied sure and saved the thread. I stopped asking questions at home. When she mentioned Caldwell, I said, "Sounds efficient." When she left papers on the counter, I photographed them before she filed them away. I bought a cheap label maker and tagged every envelope. Bank STMD April 15th. Ins Premium April 18th. Trust Amendment April 22nd. The labels looked official. She never touched them. I moved the guest room dresser 3 inches left so the bottom drawer opened fully. Inside went the notebook, the photos, a thumb drive labeled Taxes 2019 that held nothing of the sort. By May, I had a system. Every Sunday night, I drove to the 24-hour copy shop on Mercer, the one with the self-service machines, and the clerk who never looked up from his manga. I scanned, printed, returned originals to their exact spots. I used the same toner cartridge, so the copies matched weight and sheen. I paid cash. The clerk still didn't look up. At home, I built a second notebook, color-coded tabs, financial, legal, correspondence. I wrote in pencil, erased nothing. Mistakes became data. I avoided confrontation the way a carpenter avoids a warped stud. Mark it, work around it, replace later. When Elena suggested we list the house to downsize, I said, "Let's run the numbers first." She smiled too wide. I smiled back, smaller. That night I emailed myself the listing draft she'd left open on the laptop. Asking price $200,000 above market. Commission split with Caldwell's cousin at the brokerage. I attached screenshots. Hit send from the guest room at 1:14 a.m. The hardest part was the silence. We ate dinner at the island, 6 feet apart, chewing in tandem. She asked about the strip mall job. I gave square footage and drywall counts. I asked about the clinic. She gave patient anecdotes that ended abruptly. Once she reached for the salt the same time I did. Our fingers brushed. She pulled back like the shaker was hot. I salted my chicken and kept eating. The notebook entry that night, May 27th, physical contact and 3 seconds, no follow-up. In June, I found a retired attorney. Tom McAllister, 72, taught my continuing ed class on lien law back, when I thought liens were the worst thing that could happen to a contractor. He'd closed his practice, but still took coffee at the courthouse diner every morning. I slid into the booth opposite him, ordered black coffee, no cream. "Need to consult," I said. "Hypothetical." He raised an eyebrow. I laid out the trust, the deed, the forged signature, left out the marriage part. He listened, stirred sugar he didn't taste, then said, "Hypothetically, you'll need chain of custody tighter than a drum and a notary who'll swear the ink's wrong. Start with the bank records." I paid for his coffee. He left a 5 on the table anyway. I followed his map. I subpoenaed my own accounts through a pro-SE motion, learned the phrase from YouTube, filed it at the clerk's window myself. The teller looked sorry for me. I smiled, said, "Just cleaning up paperwork." I opened the post office box under my business LLC, forwarded everything there. Elena never noticed a mail stop coming to Sycamore Lane. By July, the guest room felt like headquarters. I hung a wall calendar, marked court dates in red, notary appointments in blue. I bought a fire safe, bolted it to the floor joist, stored originals inside. The combination was the closing date on the house. Numbers she'd never think to try. I slept 4 hours a night, woke without an alarm, ran the plan in my head like rebar counts. I lost 12 pounds, my belt notched 2 holes tighter. Elena said I looked focused. I said deadlines. One August evening she came home late, heels clicking fast. "Caldwell needs your signature on the refinance rider," she said, sliding a pen across the island. I read the page, my name pre-printed, a line for John Harlan in blue ink. I capped the pen. "I'll review it tomorrow." She sighed, took the pen, left the paper. I photographed it at 11:47 p.m., added it to the correspondence tab. The rider transferred the mortgage to the trust upon signing. Consideration, $10. I didn't sleep that night. At 3:12 a.m., I opened the fire safe, took out the original purchase agreement, ran my thumb over the notary seal. The raised letters felt like Braille for patients. I slipped it into a new envelope, sealed it with a single piece of clear tape, wrote nothing on the outside. I carried it to the study, placed it in the bottom drawer beneath the label maker and the spare toner. Then I closed the drawer, turned the key I now wore on a chain under my shirt, and went back to the guest room. The mattress still sagged, but the sag no longer bothered me. I lay down, hands behind my head, and stared at the ceiling until the streetlight through the blinds painted stripes across the wall. Tomorrow I would add another date in red. For now, I had everything I needed within arm's reach and months still to wait. Tom McAllister's office was a converted garage behind his daughter's bungalow on the east side, paneled in knotty pine and smelling of pipe tobacco and old paper. He kept one client chair, a metal desk, and a coffee pot that gurgled like it resented the job. I brought the fire safe on a hand truck the first Saturday in September, parked it beside the desk, spun the dial. Tom didn't blink. He just pushed his glasses up and said, "Show me the chain." I opened the safe, laid the original purchase agreement on a clean sheet of butcher paper, then the forged trust, the quitclaim, the bank inquiries, the refinance rider, each in its labeled sleeve. He handled them with cotton gloves, the kind he used to wear in court when evidence still mattered. "Good," he said. "No smudges, no folds after the fact. You've been careful." I told him careful was the only luxury I could afford. We met every Saturday after that. Tom charged nothing, said he missed a game. I brought coffee black and a legal pad where I wrote questions in the margins of his answers. He taught me the difference between a motion to compel and a motion for summary judgment, how to phrase an affidavit, so a judge couldn't ignore it, which clerks at the courthouse like donuts and which like silence. I practiced objections in the mirror until they sounded like statements of fact. Tom watched, nodded once, said, "Less throat, more diaphragm." I filed my first discovery request pro-SE on October 2nd. The clerk stamped it without looking up. Elena's mail kept coming to the P.O. box. I opened nothing, just photographed the envelopes, logged the postmarks. Caldwell started flexing in November. He filed a motion to sell the house pendant light, claiming Elena needed liquidity for ongoing medical expenses. I read the filing in the copy shop at 11:03 p.m., the machines humming like hornets. The medical expenses were itemized, $11,400 for preventative procedures. I cross-referenced our joint insurance EOBs. 0 claims. I attached the EOBs to my opposition, mailed it certified, kept the green card. Caldwell's paralegal called the P.O. box number by mistake once, left a voicemail asking for John's availability to sign the listing agreement. I saved the message, transcribed it word for word, date stamped November 18, 2:47 p.m. Tom introduced me to Ruth Delgado, retired forensic document examiner, still certified, still bored. She worked out her basement on Elmwood, surrounded by microscopes and ink samples in glass vials. I brought the forged trust and the refinance rider in a locked briefcase. She spent 3 hours under UV, measured stroke width, compared pressure patterns. Her report was 6 pages, single-spaced. Signature on Exhibit A inconsistent with known exemplars of John Harlan at 94% confidence. Ink formulation on Exhibit B post-date stated execution by 11 to 14 months. She notarized it herself, embossed seal Chris. I paid her in cash, $200 even. She said, "Tell Tom he owes me cannoli." I built the case like a deck, joist first, then decking, then railings tight enough to code. Every Sunday I drove to the county recorder after hours, used a public terminal to print certified copies of every filing that mentioned 1427, Sycamore Lane. I paid the $2 fee each time, kept receipts in order. I subpoenaed the notary who stamped the trust, Maria G. Salazar, now working nights at a pharmacy on 12th. She remembered Elena, remembered Caldwell rushing her, remembered the man who wasn't me standing slightly behind. Her deposition was 9 pages. She signed every one. Elena and Caldwell grew loud in their confidence. I saw them once at the diner across from the courthouse. Corner booth, Caldwell gesturing with a forkful of hash browns, Elena laughing the way she used to when we picked paint colors. I sat 3 booths back, ordered coffee, paid cash, left before they noticed. That night, I added a new tab, surveillance. Entry, December 4th, 8:17 a.m., diner. Caldwell states, missing doc is our ace. Elena nods, signs check. I underlined ace twice. By January, the wall calendar looked like a crime scene. Red for hearings, blue for filings, green for witness statements. I hung a second calendar for February. Tom reviewed the final binder, 3 inches thick, index bait stamped. He closed it, set it on the desk between us. You got them on forgery, fraud, and breach of fiduciary duty. Pick 2. The third is gravy. I picked forgery and fraud. Gravy could wait. I kept the original purchase agreement in the fire safe, now inside a rigid plastic sleeve. I practiced sliding it across tabletops until the motion felt inevitable. I bought a new folder, matte black, no labels. Inside went the agreement, Ruth's report, Maria's deposition, the bank records, the EOBs, everything trimmed to fit flush. I sealed the folder with 1 strip of clear tape, wrote nothing on the outside. On the last Saturday in January, Tom watched me slide the folder into the safe. When, he asked, I spun the dial. When they asked for it, he nodded, poured the last of the coffee, handed me the cup. It tasted like burnt rope in victory. That night I stood in the guest room, calendar glowing under the desk lamp. I took a red pen, drew a single circle around March 12th, trial date. Then I opened the bottom drawer of the dresser, lifted the false bottom-eyed installed with pocket screws, and placed a black folder on the velvet cloth I'd cut from an old jacket lining. I closed the drawer, turned the key, hung it back around my neck. The house was quiet. Elena's car was in the garage. I didn't check where she'd gone. I had months of dates in red, and in my desk drawer, under a layer of silence, waited one sealed envelope, my last ace. The courtroom smelled the same as it had 6 months earlier. Oak coffee, the faint metallic tang of nerves. Same judge, same bailiff, same fluorescent. But the air felt different now, thinner, like the room itself had been holding its breath. I took my seat at the respondent's table, the matte black folder centered in front of me, spine aligned with the table's edge. Elena sat opposite, hair pulled back tight, navy suit pressed to a knife's edge. Caldwell stood beside her, flipping through a thick binder, the pages rustling like dry leaves. He didn't look at me. Not yet. Judge Lou entered at 9:02. All rise. We did. She settled, adjusted her glasses, and opened file. Harlan versus Harlan. Continued trial on petitioner's claim for sole ownership of the marital residence and respondent's counterclaims of fraud and forgery. Mr. Caldwell, you may proceed with your case in chief. Caldwell cleared his throat, the sound sharp and quiet. Your Honor, the evidence will show that on March 14th of last year, the parties executed a revocable trust transferring the property at 1427, Sycamore Lane to petitioner as sole beneficiary. Respondent was aware of the transfer, participated in preliminary discussions, and raised no objection until this litigation. The original purchase agreement, which respondent now claims governs, was lost in a home office flood last spring. We have affidavits from 2 plumbers confirming water damage to the study. Absent that document, the trust controls. He called Elena first. She walked to the stand with the measured steps of someone who'd rehearsed in heels. The clerk swore her in. Caldwell's questions came smooth, practiced. Mrs. Harlan, did you discuss the trust with your husband? Yes, multiple times. Did he express concern? Only about taxes. Did he sign the trust instrument? She hesitated a fraction too long. He was present when it was notarized. Caldwell let the pause hang, then moved on. On cross, I stood, hands clasped behind my back. Mrs. Harlan, on what date did I sign the trust? She looked at Caldwell, then the judge. March 14th. What time? Evening, I think. Who drove the notary? Another pause. I did. I nodded, sat. No follow-up. The jury, 6 strangers in the box, watched her return to her seat. One juror, a woman with a silver bun, wrote something in her notebook. Caldwell called the notary Maria Salazar. She took the stand in her pharmacy smock, name tag crooked. Caldwell established her credentials, then asked, Did you witness John Harlan sign the trust on March 14th? Maria's fingers worried the hem of her sleeve. I witnessed the signature. The man stood behind Mrs. Harlan. I didn't ask for ID. Caldwell's smile faltered. But the signature says John Harlan. Yes. I rose. Miss Salazar, how tall am I? She looked at me, then the signature card. 5'10", maybe? The man behind my wife, how tall? Taller. 6'1", 6'2". Caldwell objected. Relevance. Judge Lou overruled. Continues. I asked Maria to read the notary log entry aloud. She did. John Harlan, 6 feet 2 inches, brown hair, green eyes. My driver's license, entered as Exhibit 12, showed 5 feet 10 inches, gray eyes. The jury box rustled. Caldwell rested at 11:17. Judge Lou looked at me. Mr. Harlan, your case. I stood, the folder cool under my palm. Your Honor, respondent moves to admit Exhibit A, the original purchase agreement for 1427, Sycamore Lane, dated May 3rd, 12 years ago. I opened the folder, slid the document across. The clerk took it, passed it up. Caldwell lunged halfway out his chair. Objection. Chain of custody. Foundation. Judge Lou raised a hand. Approach. We did. Caldwell's voice dropped to a hiss. This is a surprise, Your Honor. They claimed it was destroyed. I said nothing. Lou examined the seal, the signatures, the notary embossment. Mr. Harlan, authenticate. I recited the chain. Purchased from my father's estate sale. Stored in fire safe since 2015. Removed only for certified copies at the clerk's office. Dates and receipts attached as Exhibit B. Lou nodded. Overruled. Exhibit A admitted. The room exhaled. I called Ruth Delgado. She took the stand with her report in a clear binder. I walked her through the ink analysis, the pressure anomalies, the 94% confidence that the trust signature wasn't mine. Caldwell cross-examined, voice rising. Ms. Delgado, could stress affect signature variants? Not to this degree. Could a different pen? Ink chemistry doesn't lie. He sat. I called the bank VP, then the insurance adjuster who found no flood damage, then the plumber whose affidavit was signed under duress, Caldwell's cousin. Each witness chipped away. By 2:45, the jury looked tired of Caldwell's binder. Closing. Caldwell spoke first, voice thinner now. A marital misunderstanding, nothing more. The trust was protective. I stood last. Your Honor, members of the jury, the evidence shows a deliberate forgery to strip me of my home. The original agreement, Exhibit A, proves joint ownership. The trust is void. I sat. The clock ticked to 3:12. Deliberation took 43 minutes. The foreperson, Silver Bun Lady, stood. On the claim for sole ownership, we fine for respondent. On counterclaims of fraud and forgery, we fine for respondent. Damages to be determined. Judge Liu polled the jury. 12 yes. Caldwell's pen clattered to the table. Elena stared at the document now projected on the screen. My signature in blue, hers in black, the notary's seal gleaming. She looked at me. I met her eyes. No smile this time. Just the weight of 12 years and one envelope. Liu spoke. Sanctions hearing next week. Counsel, my chambers in 10. She rose. The bailiff called, all rise. Chairs scraped. Caldwell gathered his binder, pages slipping. Elena stood, purse clutched her chest, and walked out without looking back. I remained seated until the room emptied, then collected my folder. The original agreement slid back inside, seal intact. I closed it, the click soft but final. The courtroom door shut behind me with the same sound it had made 6 months ago, only now the echo belonged to me. The new place is a 1940s brick duplex 3 miles from the old address. Rent half the mortgage. Windows that actually open. I'm moving on a Tuesday in April, the day the forsythia bloomed yellow against a chain-link fence. 1 U-Haul load. Bed, desk, the fire safe. The wall calendar now rolled tight in a rubber band. The rest, couch, dining table, the swing set, sold at auction for pennies on the dollar. Elena never showed. Caldwell's office sent a runner with a settlement check. I signed for it on the porch. Handed back the pen. Mornings are quiet. I brew coffee in a dented steel pot. Drink it black on the stoop, while the neighbor's spaniel noses the gate. The cup warms my palms the way blueprints used to. I still keep a notebook, smaller now, soft leather, 1 line per day. May 3rd, certified copies arrived. May 17th, sanctions hearing, $42,000 against Caldwell, license review pending. May 29th, Elena filed for bankruptcy. I write in ink these days, no need to erase. The courthouse is a 20-minute walk. I went back once, June heat shimmering off the steps, to pick up the final order. The clerk remembered me, slid the envelope across without small talk. Inside, judgment stamp paid in full, the original purchase agreement returned, seal still crisp. I tucked it into the folder, now faded at the corners, and walked out past the diner, where Caldwell once waved a fork like a baton. The booth was empty. A new sign in the window read, under new management. Some nights I sit at the desk, lamp pooling gold on the wood, and open the safe. The agreement lies on top, then Ruth's report, Maria's deposition, the jury verdict. I don't read them anymore. I just run a thumb over the edges. The way a carpenter checks a joint for give, nothing moves. The combination is still the closing date. I never changed it. Elena sent 1 letter, forwarded from the old address. No return label. Handwriting I recognized from grocery lists. I left it sealed for 3 days, then steamed it open over the kettle. Inside, a single photograph. Us at the county fair. Her head on my shoulder, my arm around her waist. The Ferris wheel blur behind us. On the back, in her old looping script, I'm sorry. Nothing else. I slid the photo between the verdict and the sanctions order, closed the safe, spun the dial. The spaniel barks at squirrels now. I planted tomatoes in the strip between sidewalk and curb. They're starting to fruit. When the sun drops, I water them with a denican. The soil dark and fragrant. The house on Sycamore sold last week to a young couple with a toddler and a golden retriever. I drove past once, slow, windows down. The swing set was gone, replaced by a tricycle. Good. I keep the key to the old study drawer on the same chain, under my shirt. It doesn't open anything here, but the weight against my chest is familiar, like a level that never lies. Some evenings I sit on the stoop until the streetlights blink on, coffee cold, and watch the duplex windows glow one by one. The silence isn't empty anymore. It's clean,